Hello, welcome everybody. This is a third meeting under the When This Is Over by ITURRI project. And today we have a fantastic guest from Iceland and who is a passionate man about equality of men and women at work. And you might think everybody is passionate about equality in general, and men and women at work is a fantastic topic. But not only has our guest spoken about this, but he has also acted on it. So he has led the implementation and development of a pay and people analytics at Reykjavik Energy for the last 9 years. And in his role, he implemented strategies and structure to analyze data. And that has made the company one of the leading companies in Iceland in terms of gender equality. So Vidir and his team have been developing a software to validate all salary decisions. So using that, his company has been able to close a gender gap they had in a very quick time. And the company now can really decide and see what they're paying for. On a personal remark, he's a wonderful pen pal, a great conversation partner, and a gazer of good writing ideas. He has written a piece for us and claims that COVID-19 has hit women harder than men. So please welcome with me, Vidir Ragnarsson. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity and this wonderful introduction, Marta. I'm very pleased to be with you today. Well, if I start with the crisis, of course, it's a terrible thing, and it's unique in its way that it is affecting us all. It's affecting the whole world, but it's affecting us in different ways. It's affecting us. We have different governments. It's the same virus, and the action of peoples are affecting it differently. Different governments and different actors that are deciding to act in a different way. And I see that is kind of shaping how it progresses in the countries. So decision making is very important in how the virus is affecting the different nations. And being a gender analyst and focusing on gender in my work, I kind of have the glasses of equality when I'm looking at stuff, and I see that it is affecting men and the women differently. So in this piece I wrote, I see that well, being closed in our homes kind of binds us to the roles that are current for men and women, both in the homes and also in society. So the responsibility for the homes, the care for elders, the care for children, that seems to go on the shoulders of women more than men. We have seen it in my country and all over the world, growing domestic violence. Here in this small country, there are in just the last 2 weeks, there are 2 murders, domestic violence that resulted in murders of women. So that is very high for us, and kind of related to this situation. Alcohol abuse is more than usual, and that is hitting women more harder than men. And in some countries, there seems to be, in terms of schools, it seems to be that boys are allowed to go to school, but the girls are stuck at home since they have some of the burdens of care that have been transferred to the girls rather than boys. So in many aspects, this is affecting the genders differently, men or women. So when I was reading through the reports that UN Women and also United Nations and more of these organizations, what I thought was promising was that the focus on data and focus on when we are stuck in crisis like this, so we can learn about how it affects differently, is the collection of data on genders. And that is very promising, I think, because in my opinion, we have to have data if we are to be serious in addressing the issues, how it affects genders differently. If we don't have solid data, and if we don't think about collecting data, we are just in some realities that are just guesswork, and then we are always confirming the unconscious biases that we have and acting on them instead of exploring the realities that we see within both the world, our communities and our companies, and how the experience of women are different from men. So I've decided to, well, I put together a piece that I put on our website, and there I'm very much talking about this, that if we are to learn something and be realistic about making equality a real thing in our company, there is a reminder now that we have to put into place some actions to collect data, and we can do it in our companies on the genders in kind of every decision. So I'm just going to open up a PowerPoint. I put together some things I have used to put together and show this. So what we decided as a company, I'm from Reykjavik Energy, and that is a power and utility company in Iceland. And it was an executive decision just in 2011 to close the gender pay gap in the company. The CEO that just had started, he decided, well, two things in terms of equality, that he was going to equal out the genders in the management, and also to close the gender pay gap. So I was kind of put up in the situation that I'm going to close the gender pay gap. That's what the CEO has decided, and I had no idea how to do it. So that was a learning experience. We have been measuring gender pay gap since 2006 regularly, and so we were not new to this, but we decided to focus more on the model of how we are paying. So if I'm going to switch to this PowerPoint. Sorry, okay, do you see this?
we can see it perfectly.
Yeah, okay. So we are kind of in a situation in Iceland that is the utility sector in Iceland, and it's very male dominated. It's and it's just really the same elsewhere in Europe. So we decided, and what we have done is kind of finish this. I have here. Since 2011, we have. This is the women in management, the yellow ones, and we succeeded in 2017 to equal out the percentage of women and men in management, and that was just a decision on how to hire and who to hire. So it was kind of a quota that we decided to put into place. We have been trying to do this in other jobs, but it's very hard. You can see that the percentage of women in the whole workforce in the company has stayed the same for almost ever. So and that is kind of the problem that we are seeing, that women are not going into tech or trades jobs, and so we have been going into some action into the education of girls, trying to headhunt girls kind of before in the grammar school to get into trades, and well, not promising, but yes, strongly suggest that if they go into trades, they could get a job at us. So, but it is a tough field, and we can see that there is hard for women to go into these fields where the culture is kind of male dominated, and we see that women leave this field much quicker than men, and it is because of the culture is not designed or is too male dominated. They are isolated, and they have no sponsors and support in these systems. In our company, and this is a really sad distribution in trades, we have in 2019, at the end of the year, we had 8 women in the trades. That was 4%, and that hadn't changed really throughout the years. So it's a constant struggle, and we are investing a lot of effort to make these jobs and make women go and go to these jobs and change the culture in these jobs. So let me see. So I'm going to show you some things of how we have been using data to see. I'm going to switch to another screen. Sorry. So do you see this? This is the gender pay gap within the company. We started measuring it in 2006, and then we had a 6.9. So this really means that when we take those things into account that we are paying for, men had 7% more in pay than women. and it goes from this in 2008 from 8.4%, and so I would say in the year 2011 to between 2010 and 2013, in the year 2011, we started to focus on the model. How do we explain what we are paying for? So we decided to look at every job and decided what is important to us in the jobs, and also in the attributes of every employee. So we have measured for these things for every employee. And this is a model that we have been developing through the years. So we kind of take what is most important for us as a company. It can't be different for companies. And we try to measure that for every employee. So we say these kind of jobs, we rank them higher because they are more important for our sector or our business model or something like that. And so you can, as you can see here, in 2015 and 2016, we were kind of stuck. We were seeing good results, but we had a difficult time getting the gender pay gap from 2% and down. What we had usually done was to send data to different consulting company or also universities, and then we get a result back maybe 2 or 3 months later, and then we just got like this number, 2.1%. And we didn't really know what had changed between the numbers. When we sent the data, we're getting it maybe 3 months later, and a lot of people had left, a lot of people had, a lot of wages has changed, and a lot of new people had come. So we were kind of, we didn't know what was affecting those numbers. So we met with heard of a woman that is Margaret Bjarnadóttir, and she was trying to put together a company and putting together a company that measured these and showed us the effects of every decision on the gender pay gap. So we went into a cooperation with her, and she used us as a pilot company, and we tried to maximize and use the effects of our model and add it to her company and her software that she was developing. So since we started to use the model, and then we did it by that we measured the gender pay gap every month. So in the year 2017 we started measuring it every month. So from the year 2017, I think I have it here, in July we had 1.5, and then by measuring every month and applying the changes that the software suggested, we got the gender pay gap down to, in the end of the year, it was minus 0.3%. That is gender pay gap in favor of women. So this green zone we have here is 1%. So we have a measure in place that says we have to be within 1%, and we measure every month. And this is, as you can see, is how it has been developing for the last, since 2017 in the end of the year. So we have one time just touched the 1% mark, and we get a suggestion every month for the employees that are well, most wrongly paid, as we can see. So we have a model. We see what is important to us, and then we can see how well what we pay fit this model. So this is just not just equality tool. It is also a good tool for like a strategy. So if you see what employees are most fairly paid, taking into account what matters most to you. And then when we have done that, we add the gender variable. So it's not just a tool for measuring gender pay gap. It's also a tool to measure how well our pay structure fits what is important to us. I had some other data. So this is job satisfaction. It's on the scale from 1 to 5, and this is how we have been developing. It's a quite high number, and this is the Icelandic benchmark. What we do also with these kind of data, it's good results, and we aggregate this data also on gender. And as you can see here are the women. They are more satisfied in their jobs. But we can see the job satisfaction of men have been rising through the years. And since we put this into place, these well, kind of regulation that you have to have this gender pay gap measured every month, we can see that the job satisfaction of men are also rising. This is a measure. We don't have a new benchmark for this for the market. Not old benchmark for this. We just have from 2008, and this is how my performance is evaluated. And if we see that for men and women, we can see that women are very satisfied with how their performance is evaluated, but it's less so for men, but it has been rising since we took these actions into these plans into actions about the equality. And this is the Net Promoter Score for us. So that is a measure of how well loyal our employees are to the company, and these are quite high numbers we have been seeing. This is the Icelandic market benchmark, and as usual in everything that relates to job satisfaction, women are very satisfied and more loyal, but it's been growing also for men. So these are also indicators for us that the culture we are developing is by focusing on equality, it is beneficial to everyone, also the men, and they are more satisfied in the job. And by focusing on gender equality, we kind of make a culture that is more welcoming to everyone. I'm going to switch over to PowerPoint now. Okay. So I kind of have covered this. So, yeah. So the focus of our equality work has been on equal pay. We have a work-family balance, and that is for all workers. We kind of one of our most important equality project was changing the shift works and working hours for our tradespeople in the power plant and in the utility system. In 2014, we changed it from 10 hours to 9 hours day, and in 2017, we went from 9 hours to 8 hours day. And we have not seen a great shift in productivity by going from 10 hours to 8 hours day. These are jobs that are mainly men. So you could ask, why is that an equality project? It is an equality project. So while the man is away working 10 hours, the responsibilities for the home and the family is in the hand of women. They can never get home at time to pick up their kids at daycare or schools. And we didn't want to be a company that was responsible for keeping mostly a woman at home with these responsibilities. So we focus and measure and put these like equality classes up when we are recruiting, and changed our recruitment processes. So every employee, a manager that is hiring goes through a kind of education on gender biases, and we have decided to all our data analysis when we can is gender disaggregated. We have courses on gender equality for every employee, and mentors for new employees are trained especially in gender equality approaches. Changed our marketing material and have been focusing very much on measuring sexual harassment and violence that is gender-based. So I had some other things I wanted to show you. Okay. As an example of how adding a gender or more background variables to our data, we can here see the absence rate from illness. And if we aggregate it by gender, you can easily come to here it is, it's higher for women and has been through the years. So this is, when you look at this, you can come to the conclusion, well, women are more sick than men. So, and that can be a conclusion in itself. But when we add more variables to it, I took this straight out of the database, so I couldn't have the ability to translate this. But these are the job categories, and it is the absence rate divided by group job categories. So for the office workers, it is the highest. So it is. This points us in the direction that the kind of job, and these are the unskilled workers, that kind of job is also an explaining factor. So if we take gender and the job categories, we can see that job categories are, here are the men and here are the women. So the job categories are more of an explaining factor than the gender. There is not much gender difference within job categories. It's a little bit here, but those men in office jobs are also more sick than men in other jobs. And here in unskilled workers, men are more likely to be or more sick and more absent because of illnesses than women. So adding the job categories and gender together kind of give you more reality and shows you that it is not well, you get a new project. You get this is a project that we came out of with these results are that we have to look at the office work, not just the conclusion that women are more sick than men, but the conclusion that our office workers are more sick, and we have to kind of look at that job and trying to change that. The last thing I want to show you is a result of our commuting survey. We ask our employees how they are what ways they are using to get to work. That is, we are very environmentally focused company, and we kind of we have a target of getting those that goes to work by, well, green means, by bike, carpooling, electric bike or private electric car, get those numbers up. And here's the private car on diesel and gasoline. So that is gray and this is green. If we add the gender variable to this, you can see it's a great difference. Women by far come with kind of on the diesel or gasoline on the cars. Men have more opportunities to get to work by bike. Women are more carpooling, and men on electric bike and on is kind of the same with the electric car. So if we divide it and look at it by genders with the green or gray, it's kind of well, 60% of men come with to the work commute in a green way, if you can say so, but the 57% of women on a non-environmentally friendly ways. So this allows us to see the data in new ways, allows us to ask new questions. So this is not really a measure of ways of commuting. It's just a measure of the time the genders have, and it is different. The women come to the work by car in more way because they are bound by the duties at home. They have to pick up the kids, and therefore they are not able to get to work by bike or by means that take more time. So this is a way I've been showing you how we have used data and adding like a gender variable, and we use also age very much in the same way to look at how it is affecting different age groups, and that reveals a new reality to our data and our kind of projects. So Marta, do you have some questions for me or?
Well, thank you so much. Of course, I do have some questions. There's been one brave soul here, but that is an interesting one. So, if there's data available to prove that equal workplaces with a diversified gender mix contributes positively to the company business results, any data that justifies this, for example, growth of turnover before versus after salary equality?
Yes, we have data on that. The CEO has a slideshow that he is showing. He shows the EBITDA of the company, and shows it's aligned and it's growing in the same way as our gender pay gap. So, well, in the other way, of course. So with more gender equality, we are seeing better business results. And as I showed you also, we are showing that the measure of our culture is better, and we have better performing teams. So yes, we have data on financial data that is well aligned with these in the same way that the gender actions, but or equality actions. But of course, EBITDA is a measure of financial results that is affected by more factors, also like environmental factors. But by the measures that we have, we see that and feel that our workplace is more healthy. The employees tell us that both in surveys and to our faces, and we are seeing by the measures of output that we are getting more results. And I think that is contributable to the cultural changes.
Okay, thank you. Just to work a bit on that, in terms of a benchmark. So one of the you have data to prove that actually the EBITDA is growing due to, among many other measures, this thing you're doing. But if you put it, if you benchmark it against Iceland, maybe, but also more internationally, is there also more data to prove that?
Yeah, definitely. We have seen that connection in a lot of data all over the place, that there are better business results when there are more diverse teams, and where equality is the focus in the workplaces.
Okay. There's another question. Who would you say is the country or type of industry leading gender equality?
Well, Iceland has kind of done most in terms of gender equality, but we have put in place a law here in Iceland in 2016 that put the responsibility of showing that and measuring the gender pay gap every year for companies with over 250 employees, and that has to be shown both within the company and on the outside, and you also have to have a action plan that you have to explain, and there is a standard. There's a equal pay standard that was developed here, and you have to be well in accordance with that standard, and there are auditors that go into the companies and check that out. So that has it was not anonymously cheering when these laws were put in action, but I think it has proved that it is well, not only valuable because of the equality focus, it has forced the companies to look at their pay structure and like we were doing, and deciding what am I paying for. And I think that is also, besides the equality focus, that is also a business case, since you don't want to pay the employees that are not attributing to your company or to value to your company the wrong amount. So that this system reveals who the employees are that should be getting the most and the least, and how far they are from what you should be paying them. So what we do to keep us within the 1% is every pay decision, it is very centralized. Every pay decision is, well, of course, in the hands of the managers, but before he takes the decision, the decision has to be run through this model, and he has to get a recommendation from us, the HR and the analytics team. So, and every hiring decision is run through this model also. So it is the hiring process is biased towards men. Men ask for more than women, and most often the managers are male in companies, and they, yeah, kind of seem to attribute better qualities to men than women.
So thank you. This is very interesting. And you said that when you were starting, 9 years ago, you weren't really sure how to do this. So what is your recommendation of where to start? Because you can run a revolution, but you can start with little steps. You need to gather data. What kind of data should you look at when starting a project like this?
Well, in terms of data for a company as a whole, try to find the data where you can use gender. And in some cases, when we add the gender variable, we don't see any difference. But that also just answers that question. There is no gender difference in these data, but you don't know it before you put the gender variable in, or other background variables. In terms of gender pay, just take small steps and look at pay. What is look at it? What is the difference between men and women in pay in similar jobs? And what happens then is you begin to, well, ask questions. Why is it? If it is similar, why is it similar? Are the jobs really different? So some HR systems have measures in place that can be used, but use the data you have and just begin to look at it. It doesn't have to be on the group level or any level. I don't know how you collect data, but look at what you have and start to measure. That is my advice.
Okay, thank you. We have another question. So, would you predict whether COVID-19 and the economical crisis that will arrive would bring gender equality back to what it was achieved so far? And if yes, how many years backwards do you think the society and companies will move?
Well, it's a good question. There are, as I said, in the beginning there are some suggestion that we are moving backwards. There also have been voices in the other direction that now the healthcare workers and the front-end workers in the health systems are more important than ever, and that is mostly women. So that could lead us to looking at these jobs in different way, valuing them more in the future. But I see, well, I'm a pessimistic in that way. I think we will move a little bit back. How much, I really have no idea, but hopefully not that much, but it's impossible to say.
Okay, another question. Do you think, how do you think we should manage gender equality? Should that happen through social education, or should that just be enforced by law in every country? What is your opinion about this?
Well, I am for, well, kind of quotas in certain jobs. That puts some pressures on companies and us as a society to, well, find the women that are there and are not getting opportunities in the job markets as it is today. It's the usual saying is that we can't find women for these jobs, but we have seen and shown that they are there and can be found if you decide to find a woman, and if you are forced to find a woman, then you can get the women that are just as good performers. I've heard from the new CEO of HSBC Bank. He says, well, I demand that when I'm hiring someone in the management team, I demand that I get the same candidates of women and men, the same numbers. And if the hiring team can't produce that, they are not doing the job. So I'm in. So back to the question, I'm for quotas, just to correct this on societal levels. So I think social education is good, and education on our biases is good, but it has been shown in some studies that education on biases does not manifest in realities. It doesn't change anything. People become more knowledgeable, but the biases are controlling what they do. So I think a mix of both is good, and education is good, but biases are biases because they are most often unknown and control our actions. So I think we need a more rigid systems to control what actions we take.
Okay, thank you. We have another good one. Do you already have estimations or data about what was the impact of the introduction of parental leave, substitution of maternal leaves? Was it really beneficial for gender equality? And could you provide some examples?
Yes, there are some studies that has been done on this, and we, well, in the Scandinavian countries and also in Iceland, have kind of more parental leave for fathers, I believe, than in the south. This has been beneficial for gender equality just to get the fathers into the home at the moment that the women are not there. So being alone at home with the responsibilities when the women are there is a system in Iceland. The woman gets 3 months. The man gets 3 months, and they divide 3 months between them. And usually the woman takes 6 months and the man 3 months. So you can't transfer the 3 months the father gets to the mother. So you just lose that if you don't use it. And usually women are going out before, and so the men are at home with the responsibility. I think that changes the view of the responsibilities at the home. And we have also been seeing that since the parental leaves laws was changed in this way in Iceland, that we are getting more young men that don't want to work the long hours, and because of the families, they don't just want to be with their families and have more time there. So I think it has been a good thing for equality, parental leaves.
Okay, I have another one. It is said that the higher you go in an organization, the fewer women there are there. So power and prestige is overrepresented by men, as you said, and there's research about it. So why would you say that the more equal the workplace there is, the job satisfaction of men is also rising at the same time? And why would men give women more space?
Well, we actually have, just as I showed you, the data from our company, that when women are more equally in the groups, and the groups are more diverse, the men are happier with it. There is also in groups that are dominated by women, the culture is different than if it were mixed. And what we see is there is a change when the gender composition of one gender is above 20% in a group, and then we can see a marked change in the culture and in the performance and happiness and satisfaction at job within those groups. So just to add a few women is, well, it is difficult for the women. It puts them more into a tighter position and a more difficult situation often. And there is like a culture of bro culture, as we can call it, that we have to attack. With too many males in a group, it becomes a certain culture that is not very welcoming to women.
Okay, thank you so much. We're almost out of time, and just as a last question, because when this is over, in general, there's a positive approach on what's going to happen. So we don't know when this is over. You know, in Iceland, probably a bit more in terms of unfreezing the country and the return to the new normal than most of us in Europe. But how do you think, what can we do when this is over to make workplaces more equal?
Well, my suggestion is well, you have to decide. There has to be an executive decision to do that. You have to start there, and then I suggest, well, mapping out the realities of women and men in your companies. And you do that by collecting data on those realities. Are the things different for women and women, and are the women and men, and are the experiences different at work? And you just can't see that without collecting the data without the gender perspective. And so what we did at the company was, well, we had a CEO that came in and said, I want to change these things. And so that was an executive decision. So we had to do it. Not that we were not in favor of equality before, but it was just put on the order just to do it. And then you take bigger steps when you are pressured to do things. Although you have some suggestion that it would be a good thing, it has to be have a formal power behind it. And it is, we have some, of course, suggestions with our, well, men have to give up some power to get more women to the table, and that is the core of the problem. If it would be good for everyone, you have to give up your power. You have to change, but it is a change that is resulting in better results for your company, better culture, and a company where people are thriving better and performing better.
Okay, thank you so much for the answer. Thank you so much for being our guest today. Keep healthy and stay safe, please. And thank you everybody for joining us when this is over by ITURRI. And also I invite you everybody to join us on Tuesday. We're also going to talk about data. So as our guest, we're having Magda Jevkuc, who's the head of Google in the heart of Europe. And she's going to boldly say that when this is over, apparently, we're going to be smarter. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.